Monster Hunter Wilds is a wake up call. Wait a second. This is weird. Oh, whoa. Oh, that was weird. Monster Hunter Wilds is a wake up call. And peaking at over 1.3 million players on Steam, it has definitely been one of the most successful game launches in the history of gaming. And to be honest, I'd say that it was kind of expected. Off the heels of a massively successful, popular, but still somewhat niche Monster Hunter Worlds, Wilds was pretty much expected to succeed. Honestly, I would have been more surprised if it didn't succeed rather than succeeding. But the success of Monster Hunter isn't an isolated incident. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just glaze Capcom all day, all right? They've definitely had their fair share of problems in the past with various titles and games and such. But what I will say is that they definitely know what they're doing over there on the Monster Hunter team. Now, the success of Monster Hunter, I think, paints a bigger picture than just for the game itself and, how successful it is. I think that it really paints a picture about the broader gaming industry as a whole. A picture that spans across multiple titles and genres, with games such as Path of Exile, Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate, telling the same exact story about how games should be made rather than how modern game studios are making their games right now. Now, we are way past the days of getting a quick cash grab or like a nostalgia trap. Just because a game is from your favorite franchise doesn't mean that gamers will go and eat that shit up. We've been burned by that way too many times. Gamers want good games, including me. Me and you, we all just want good games. And Monster Hunter Wilds and the Monster Hunter franchise brings just that. But the Monster Hunter series wasn't always in the state that it is today. When Monster Hunter was first released on PlayStation in 2004, it was one of the 3 games that Capcom had used to experiment with online connectivity, which was something that was new to console gaming at the time. It was a game that was built with the intention of cooperative play from the ground up. And with its harsh difficulty curve and meaningful combat, it allowed players to feel the excitement and accomplishment of taking down large monsters with a team. And it was nothing like other mainstream games, with no story-driven campaign or even a traditional leveling system. The game still ended up selling well over 1 million copies. But the catch was that it was mostly in Japan, and in the West, it was a massive flop. The insane learning curve was something that was just extremely off-putting for us here in the West, and to be frank, I'm not surprised because we've seen that in the past with many other games, and this continued to be the case until almost 10 years later with Monster Hunter 4 that was finally able to break over 1 million copies sold in the West. But here's the thing, that didn't stop Capcom from pursuing their vision for the game. No, not being able to sell in the West was not something that they thought was a problem. They were like, okay, we're selling to players in Japan, we're connecting with our core audience. Why don't we deepen that connection and continue to sell to that audience rather than thinking about, oh, we need to change our game to be more Western friendly? They stuck to their core audience and continued to give them what they desired. And they continued to develop and refine the game in a direction that they thought was good for the game rather than what was good for the bottom line. And over the years of continuous refinement, that is how we get to the Monster Hunter we know today. And I feel like gaming companies have kind of forgotten about that fact of making a good game rather than just thinking about profits. But to be honest, I don't really blame them. I think there are 2 main issues plaguing the game industry today. The first issue really has to do with how our world has evolved. If you think about it this way, games are a pretty recent technology, and in terms of modern gaming, it's even more recent. I would say that modern gaming was probably started around 30 years ago, maybe 40. But if you think about the way that we live our lives every single day, even 20 years ago or 10 years ago, even, we lived an extremely different life than we live today. It really wasn't too long ago where the only way for me to figure out how good a game was to either rent it or buy it myself. Heck, none of my friends played games back then. It was like very rare that I would find a friend who would be playing games like me. But that's the thing. Things have changed a lot. Back then, when you bought a game or rented a game, this gave the gaming company the ability to earn money up front before the consumer even had a chance to buy the game and try it for themselves. So this gave the gaming company the ability to earn money up front before the consumer even had a chance to try the game for themselves. So in a way, they really didn't need to make a good game for you to buy it. All they needed to do was make the game look attractive and be good enough that when you're playing the game, you didn't return it to the store. And even if you returned it, the store would be the one eating the cost rather than the company. Now, maybe later on down the line, the store might be like, oh, maybe I don't want to buy this game from you anymore. But still, the gaming company already got the money. They got the bag already. But since then, times have changed. Fast forward to today, rather than rushing to GameStop to buy the latest Smash Bros., all I need to do is go online to the storefront to buy it digitally, directly from the developer themselves or through some third-party middleman like Steam. But even then, the money is going to be directly going to them, and Steam's just going to get a cut, right? And if I really wanted to know how good the game was, I don't have to buy it. All I need to do is go online and search it up, and there will be somebody with like a 300 plus hour gameplay opinion on the day of release. I don't even need to touch the game to be able to know how good it is, and I'd be able to make an informed decision before going out to buy the game. So if the game is good, people will play it. But if the game is bad, everybody will know about it, and as a result, nobody will buy it. And we've seen this so many times in recent games like Concord, Avowed, or Dragon's Dogma. If your game sucks, it will flop. But in my opinion, that's not even the biggest issue plaguing the gaming industry today. In my opinion, I think that the gaming industry is too big for its own good. Now, I'm not saying that game companies and studios need to be small to be able to succeed. That's definitely not the case. But I think that this amount of money and the amount of investors behind these studios really changes the mindset about how people go upon making their games. Now, think about it this way. Back in the day, game development studios were really just filled with nerds who loved to play games, and they wanted to make their games to share their love of gaming to other people. They weren't driven by huge profit margins or a desire to milk every dollar out of the consumer with predatory microtransactions. They really were in it for the love of the genre. But as the gaming industry grew, the amount of money that was put behind all these games also grew. And nowadays, we see budgets for games skyrocketing to the millions, hundreds of millions even, and as a result, the expectations for the game to turn a profit grows higher, shoving aside the voices of the actual gamers and elevating those who had the hunger for making money. And that's how we get to where we are today. At this point, all of the gamers left the room. They're no longer in the boardroom. And the only people who are left in the room in these conversations are the suits, are the people who are going to help you make money. And these people, honestly, probably haven't even played a single game that the company has put out. The studios went from being led by gamers to being led by businessmen. And in my opinion, this causes the game studios to put the cart before the horse. They start to design games with the intention of making money before even thinking about the game itself. They started to think about the systems they could use to milk money out of players before thinking about the systems in the game. They started to think about the messaging of the game in order to connect with as many people as possible before thinking about how to connect with their core audience. They started to build games for everyone rather than their target audience. And as they say, a game built for everybody is a game built for nobody. Now, I'm not saying that games should stop worrying about the amount of money that they make. Far from that, because games at the end of the day, even back then, were businesses. They need to make a profit to be able to continue to operate. And the hope is that the more money that they earn, the more money they put into the game that earn that money, but also the more money that they get to put into the games that they're making in the future. And in my opinion, that's a good thing in how these gaming studios and consumers, their relationship should be going. We should be paying money for good games so that these companies can, as a result, make more good games in the future. It's a win win situation for everybody. But the thing is, the current mindset and the current way that game companies are building their games really just needs to stop. Companies need to stop focusing on how much money that they can make now with the current title and really bring their thought process and ideologies back to the way things used to be. Thinking about how they can make a good game and how this good game will lead to having a bigger audience over time, and as a result, bring them more money in the future. This is why games like Monster Hunter succeed. This is why games like Path of Exile succeed. This is why games like Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring succeed. Because none of them were built with the idea of making the most profit from the ground up. They were built off of being a good game. None of them were smash successes as a result in their first iteration. But the core game was there. And because the companies behind them never abandoned their vision, their ideology, and their dedication to their player base, the gameplay spoke for itself and helped make these companies pillars in the gaming industry. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that gaming companies need to step up. They need to stop thinking about the money and start thinking about the players and putting them first. Now, this is my first time kind of making a video like this, so let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with my opinion? Do you think my opinion sucks? Do you want to see more videos like this? If you do, as always, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the sub button. Those are all ways that I know that you guys are enjoying the content. As a result, I'll continue making more content like this in the future. But with that, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see y'all on the next video. All right, guys. Peace.